Have you ever felt like you wanted to be a part of something bigger? A world filled with exciting opportunities, interesting people, and endless possibilities? Imagine being able to talk to anyone, anywhere, and make friends from different parts of the world. Imagine understanding movies, songs, and books in English without struggling. Now, what if I told you that this magical door to a brighter, more exciting life is already within your reach? All you need is the courage to take one simple step. Start speaking English with people. Let me take you on a journey, one that begins with a shy girl named Lucy. Hi, I'm Lucy. I want to tell you a story about how learning English completely changed my life. It's something I never expected, but it helped me do amazing things I had only ever dreamed about. I grew up in a small town where everything was quiet and peaceful. The people in my town were really nice, but English was not something we spoke very often. We didn't learn English in school, and it wasn't a common language in our homes either. Most of the people I knew, including my friends and family, didn't know much English. So, when I was a kid, I never had the chance to practice or even hear English often. Even though I lived in this little town, deep down inside me, I always had big dreams. I imagined traveling to different countries, meeting new people from all over the world, and having a job that was exciting and fulfilling. But there was one problem. I knew that English could help me do all those things. The world is so big, and many people speak English. I knew that if I learned to speak English, it would open up doors to amazing opportunities, like meeting new friends from other countries and being able to visit places I had only heard about in books or movies. However, because I didn't know English well, I felt stuck and disconnected from all of those dreams. I began to feel that I was missing out. There was so much more in the world that I wanted to be a part of, but it seemed like I couldn't reach it. It felt like a big wall was standing in my way, and that wall was the fact that I couldn't speak English fluently. But one day, something amazing happened. I was walking through my town when I saw a big sign in front of a local building. It was an ad for an English course. The sign said, "Learn English with confidence. No experience needed." I stopped in my tracks and stared at the sign for a while. The ad promised that it would help people like me, even if they had never spoken English before. It said I could learn to speak English in a way that felt natural and easy, and that I would be able to use it to connect with people around the world. At first, I felt nervous and unsure. I wasn't sure if I could really do it. I thought, what if I'm too old to learn? Or what if I'm not good enough? I was scared of making mistakes, and I didn't want anyone to laugh at me. But then something inside me told me that I had to at least try. I knew that if I didn't do something about it now, I might never get the chance to learn. So I made a decision. I signed up for the course, even though I was really nervous. When I walked into the classroom for the first time, I was filled with both excitement and fear. The room was full of people, just like me, who wanted to learn English. Some of them had already learned a little, and some were like me, complete beginners. We were all different, but we shared the same goal: to speak English. At the beginning, I struggled. The lessons were hard, and I couldn't understand everything the teacher said. But every day, I tried my best. I started practicing simple phrases like, "Hello, my name is Lucy," and "How are you?" It felt weird at first, and I made a lot of mistakes. But instead of feeling embarrassed, I reminded myself that everyone makes mistakes when they learn something new. Slowly but surely, I began to get better. I started speaking with more confidence. The more I practiced, the more I understood, and the more I wanted to learn. My teacher was always there to help, and my classmates encouraged me. We helped each other, and that made the learning process so much easier and fun. Little by little, I began to realize that learning English was not just about memorizing words or rules. It was about connecting with people, exploring new opportunities, and opening my mind to a bigger world. As I got better at speaking English, I started dreaming bigger and feeling more confident. I began to imagine myself traveling to faraway places, talking to people from different countries, and maybe even getting a job where I could use my English skills. All the things I had dreamed of started to feel possible. Looking back now, I can't believe how far I've come. Learning English was not easy, but it was worth every bit of effort. It has opened so many doors for me, and I'm so glad I took that first step. I want to tell everyone who feels like they can't do it, don't give up. If I can do it, you can too. English really can change your life, just like it changed mine. That day, when I saw the ad for the English course, was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. It was the start of an exciting adventure that led me to where I am today. And I'm not done yet. I have so much more to learn, and I can't wait to see where English will take me next. The first step, overcoming fear. When I first started learning English, the hardest part wasn't the lessons or the new words. It was the fear that held me back. I was so scared of making mistakes. I worried that if I said something wrong, people would laugh at me. I thought others might judge me or think I wasn't smart. This fear made me feel small and quiet. It was like there was a wall between me and the words I wanted to say. In the first few lessons, I barely spoke at all. I would sit quietly at the back of the class, listening carefully to the teacher. Whenever the teacher asked questions, I would look down at my notebook, hoping I wouldn't be picked to answer. I would take notes and practice reading sentences in my head, but when it came to speaking out loud, I just couldn't do it. My hands would sweat, my face would turn red, and I felt embarrassed. I thought to myself, what if I make a mistake? What if everyone laughs? These thoughts kept me silent. One day, the teacher asked me to introduce myself in English. My heart started pounding, and I felt frozen in my chair. Slowly, I stood up, but my words came out shaky and quiet. I could barely say, "My name is Lucy." Afterward, I sat down quickly, feeling embarrassed. I thought everyone was thinking about how bad my English was. But then I noticed something surprising. No one laughed. No one judged me. In fact, some of my classmates smiled kindly as if they understood how I felt. That moment stayed with me. After a few more classes, something important changed in my mind. I realized that learning English wasn't about being perfect. It wasn't about saying every word correctly or knowing all the grammar rules. It was about trying. It was about communicating and connecting with people. Even if I made mistakes, the important thing was that I was trying to speak and share my thoughts. When I understood this, it felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I felt lighter, freer, and braver. I realized it was okay to make mistakes because every mistake was a chance to learn and get better. Nobody starts perfect. Everyone makes mistakes when they are learning something new, and that's part of the process. So, I decided to let go of my fear little by little. At first, I tried saying just one sentence out loud in class. Then I tried two. When I stumbled on a word, the teacher helped me, and I felt encouraged instead of embarrassed. The more I let go of my fear, the more I realized I was improving. I started feeling proud of myself for trying, even if my English wasn't perfect. Looking back, I know that overcoming my fear was the most important step in my English learning journey. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And you know what? The moment I stopped being afraid of mistakes was the moment I truly started learning. The power of conversation. I remember the day when my English teacher introduced a new activity in our class. She told us that we would work in pairs and have conversations in English. At first, I felt nervous, my hands felt cold, and my heart was beating so fast. I wasn't used to speaking English in front of others, and I was scared of making mistakes. What if I said something wrong? What if people laughed at me? But then, something inside me whispered, "You can do this." I decided to give it a try, even though I was afraid. The teacher paired me up with a classmate named Sarah. Sarah was kind, friendly, and very patient. She spoke English much better than I did, but she never made me feel bad about my mistakes. She encouraged me to try my best. Our teacher gave us some questions to start with, and they were simple ones like, "What is your name? Where are you from? And what do you like to do?" At first, my voice was shaky, and I couldn't say much. But Sarah smiled and waited for me to finish my sentences. She didn't rush me or correct me harshly. Instead, she helped me by repeating the sentences and giving me time to think. As the days went by, our conversation started to feel easier. I wasn't as scared anymore. I realized that Sarah wasn't judging me. She just wanted to help me learn. We began talking about more fun topics. We talked about our favorite books and why we liked them. Sarah told me about a book she loved, and I told her about a story I remembered from my childhood. We talked about our dreams, what we wanted to do when we grew up. I told Sarah that I wanted to travel and see different countries, and she told me she wanted to be a writer. We also talked about the places we wanted to visit. Sarah said she wanted to see the Eiffel Tower in Paris, and I said I wanted to visit the beaches in Australia. What amazed me the most was how much I started to enjoy speaking English. At first, I thought English was just about learning new words and memorizing grammar rules. But as I practiced with Sarah, I realized that English was much more than that. It wasn't just a subject in school, it was a way to connect with people. The more I spoke with Sarah, the more I wanted to keep talking and learning. I found out that Sarah loved listening to my stories just as much as I loved hearing hers. We laughed together, learned together, and grew more confident together. The best part of these conversations was how they made me feel. Speaking English no longer felt scary or like something I had to force myself to do. It started to feel natural. I wasn't worrying about getting every word right or every sentence perfect. Instead, I focused on the ideas I wanted to share. And every time I said something in English, it felt like I was opening a small door to a bigger world. What surprised me even more was how speaking English helped me see things differently. Through these conversations, I didn't just learn new words. I learned about Sarah's favorite hobbies, her family traditions, and her favorite places. I also learned to share my own thoughts and feelings in a way that I had never done before. It felt like we were building a bridge between our two worlds, and English was the bridge. Over time, I began to feel like I was part of something much bigger than just our classroom. I realized that English wasn't just a language. It was a tool that could connect me to people everywhere. Whether they were from my town, my country, or even other parts of the world, I could use English to talk to them, learn from them, and share my own stories. From those simple, "What is your name?" questions to deeper conversations about our dreams and goals, I discovered the power of conversation. It taught me that English is not just about speaking perfectly. It's about communicating, connecting, and understanding others. Speaking English became something I loved, and it opened the door to a world of possibilities I never imagined before. Expanding my circle. As I began improving my English, I realized that learning a language shouldn't just stay inside a classroom. I wanted to practice speaking with real people, so I decided to try something new. I found out about local events where people spoke English. These included language exchange meetups, cultural festivals, and even book clubs where everyone talked about stories in English. At first, I felt nervous. Actually, I was terrified. I didn't know anyone at these events, and I was scared I wouldn't understand what they were saying. Worse, I thought they might laugh at my mistakes. The first language exchange meetup I attended was in a big hall filled with people chatting in English. My heart was beating fast as I walked in. I felt like turning around and leaving, but I reminded myself why I was there: to practice and improve. To my surprise, the moment I stepped inside, I was greeted by warm smiles and friendly faces. People introduced themselves and asked about me. They didn't care if my English wasn't perfect. They were excited to help me. This made me feel relaxed and happy. We started talking about simple things. Some people asked me, "What's your favorite food?" And I answered, "I love pizza." Others asked, "What are your hobbies?" And I told them I enjoy reading and drawing. We even shared travel stories like where we'd like to go someday. At first, I stumbled over my words, but no one minded. They encouraged me to keep going. Slowly, I realized that the point wasn't to speak perfectly. It was to connect, to share, and to understand each other. As I attended more events, I started making friends from all over the world. I met a girl from Germany who taught me how to say hello in German, a boy from France who loved to cook, and a cheerful woman from Italy who told funny stories about her dog. There was even a young man from Brazil who loved playing the guitar and taught me a few songs in English. Talking to these people wasn't just about practicing English. It was about learning about their countries, their cultures, and their way of life. For example, I learned that in Germany, people love eating bread with so many types of toppings, and in Brazil, soccer is more than a sport, it's a passion. The best part was that we all had something in common. We wanted to learn and grow. They wanted to practice their English just like me, and that made me feel less alone. We laughed at each other's mistakes and celebrated each time someone used a new word correctly. It felt like being part of a big, supportive family. As I continued practicing, I realized something very important. Speaking English wasn't just about learning words or grammar. It was a way to build connections with people all over the world. It opened my eyes to different traditions, ideas, and ways of thinking. I discovered that no matter where we come from, we all have stories to share and dreams to pursue. English became my bridge to meet incredible people and learn things I would never have known otherwise. Looking back, I feel so grateful that I stepped out of my comfort zone and joined these events. At first, I was scared, but if I hadn't taken that first step, I would have missed out on so many wonderful experiences. Now, every time I speak English with someone new, I feel like I'm adding a new piece to my world, a piece filled with friendship, learning, and growth. The job opportunity. One day, something very exciting and a little scary happened in my life. I was scrolling through a website where companies posted jobs, and I came across a job listing for a very big international company. The job looked like a dream opportunity because it offered a chance to work with people from all over the world. But there was one small problem. The entire job description was written in English, and they required someone who could speak and write English well. At first, I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. My mind was filled with doubts. What if my English isn't good enough? What if I make too many mistakes? I thought to myself, but then I remembered all the practice I had been doing. I thought about the times I had spoken English with my friends, classmates, and even strangers at meetups. I realized that I had improved so much since I first started learning. I didn't need to be perfect. I just needed to try my best. So, even though I was nervous, I decided to apply for the job. Filling out the application form in English was my first challenge. I carefully read each question, and when I didn't understand a word, I used my dictionary to help me. Writing about my skills and experiences in English took a lot of effort, but I didn't give up. When I finally submitted the application, I felt both proud and nervous. A week later, I received an email inviting me to an interview. My heart skipped a beat. The interview was going to be in English. I was thrilled about the opportunity, but also very anxious. What if I freeze and can't answer their questions? I thought, but then I reminded myself how much I had grown. I had been practicing conversations for months, and this was my chance to show what I had learned. On the day of the interview, I wore my best outfit and sat in front of my computer, ready for the video call. When the interviewer appeared on the screen, I smiled and said, "Good morning." My hands were a little shaky, but I tried to stay calm. The interviewer asked questions about my experience, my goals, and how I would handle certain situations. I took a deep breath before answering each question. I didn't try to use big, fancy words or complicated sentences. Instead, I focused on speaking clearly and confidently. I used simple English just like I had practiced with my friends. I made a few small mistakes, but I didn't let that stop me. The interviewer listened patiently and even nodded with a smile, which made me feel more comfortable. When the interview ended, the interviewer looked at me and said, "Thank you, Lucy. Your English is very good. We'll get back to you soon." Hearing those words made me feel so happy and proud. I knew I had done my best, and that was what mattered. A few days later, I received an email with the subject line, "Congratulations." My heart raced as I opened it. The company had offered me the job. I couldn't believe it. I had done it. All the hard work, practice, and courage had paid off. Getting the job felt like a huge achievement, but it wasn't just about the job itself. It was about how far I had come in my English journey. I thought about how scared I used to be to speak English, and now I was using it to take a big step in my career. If I hadn't started speaking English with people, I would never have had this opportunity. This experience taught me that learning a new language isn't just about grammar and vocabulary. It's about connecting with others, growing as a person, and opening doors to amazing opportunities. English helped me achieve something I once thought was impossible, and I knew it could help me achieve even more in the future. The journey continues. Now, I use English every single day at work, and it has become a big part of my life. My job requires me to work with people from different parts of the world. I talk to my colleagues in English, write emails in English, and even attend meetings where everyone speaks English. At first, it felt strange and challenging, but now it feels completely normal. We use English to share ideas, solve problems, and collaborate on projects. It amazes me how a language I once struggled with is now the main way I communicate with so many different people. But it's not just about the job. Learning English has opened my eyes to a whole new world. Before, I felt like I was living in a small bubble, only connected to the people and things in my local area. Now, it feels like the world is so much bigger and more exciting. I've made friends from countries I used to only read about in books or see on TV. For example, I have a friend from Japan who taught me about her traditions, like how they celebrate the cherry blossom season. I also have a colleague from Italy who shared stories about the delicious food they eat there, like pizza and pasta made in ways I never knew. Each friendship feels like a little window into a new culture, and it's all because of English. Learning English has also given me confidence I never had before. When I was younger, I used to avoid situations where I had to speak English. I worried about making mistakes or sounding silly. Now, I realize that mistakes are just part of learning. Every time I made an error, it was an opportunity to learn something new. The more I practiced, the better I became, and now I can speak fluently without feeling nervous. This confidence hasn't just helped me at work, it's helped me in life. I feel brave enough to try new things, meet new people, and take on challenges I would have avoided before. If I could give advice to anyone who wants to learn English, it would be this: don't wait for the perfect moment. I used to think I needed to study more or practice alone before I was ready to speak to others. But the truth is, there's no such thing as the perfect moment. You don't need to know every word or speak perfectly to start. Just start now. Talk to someone, a teacher, a friend, a classmate, or even someone online. Even small conversations can make a big difference. It's like learning to ride a bike. You can read about it and watch videos, but the only way to really learn is to get on the bike and start pedaling. Speaking English is the same. The more you practice, the more confident you will feel. I also want to say that learning English isn't just about getting a good job, though that's definitely a big benefit. It's about much more than that. English can give you the chance to connect with people from all over the world. You can share stories, learn about different cultures, and even make lifelong friendships. For example, I once met a traveler from Australia who told me about her adventures hiking through rainforests. If I didn't know English, I wouldn't have been able to understand her or share my own stories. These connections make life so much richer and more meaningful. Learning English has made me feel like I'm part of something bigger. It's not just a language, it's a way to connect with the world. Whether you dream of traveling, making friends, or even just watching movies without subtitles, English can make those dreams possible. And it all starts with one simple step: speaking. Even if you feel nervous or unsure, remember that everyone starts somewhere. No one speaks perfectly on their first try. Don't let fear hold you back. Speak with people, listen to their stories, and learn from them. Every conversation will help you grow, and before you know it, you'll be speaking confidently, just like I am now. So, if you're thinking about learning English, don't wait. Take the first step today. The connections you make, the experiences you have, and the confidence you gain will change your life in ways you can't imagine. Speaking English isn't just a skill, it's a journey, and it's one of the best journeys you'll ever take. Tips for you: 1. Overcome your fear of speaking. When I first started learning English, I was terrified of speaking in front of people. I thought everyone would laugh at me if I made a mistake, especially with pronunciation or grammar. I remember the first time I was asked to say something in class. My hands started shaking, my face turned red, and I felt like I was going to pass out. I wanted to run away and hide because I wasn't confident in myself. But I realized that everyone in class was learning, just like me. Everyone was afraid of making mistakes, even if they looked calm on the outside. The more I saw other students making mistakes and still being okay, the more I started to understand that making mistakes was actually part of the learning process. No one was going to judge me for trying. That gave me the confidence to start speaking more, even though I still made mistakes. If you feel scared or nervous about speaking in English, remember that it's okay. Mistakes are part of learning, and they help you improve. The more you practice, the more confident you'll become. So, don't be afraid to speak up. Start with small conversations, and soon you'll be speaking confidently in English. 2. Start with simple words and sentences. At first, I tried to use big, complicated words when speaking English because I thought that's what smart people did. But I quickly realized that using big words wasn't helping me. It just made me more confused, and sometimes I couldn't even pronounce them correctly. Instead, I started focusing on using simple words and sentences. I realized that it's better to speak clearly with simple language than to use complicated words that might not even be right. For example, instead of trying to say, I am quite fond of the concept of technology, I started saying, I like technology. It was easier, and people understood me better. You don't need to use big words to sound smart. In fact, using simple language is often more powerful because it's clear and easy to understand. Don't worry about using difficult words. Focus on expressing your thoughts clearly. Start with simple words and sentences, and as you become more comfortable, you can slowly start using more complex vocabulary. 3. Practice with people around you. One of the most important things I learned was to practice speaking English with people around me. I used to think that I could only improve my English by studying alone or reading books, but I discovered that talking with others helped me the most. I began practicing with my family, my friends, and even people at school. Even if I wasn't sure about a word, I would ask them to correct me. Sometimes they would laugh, but it wasn't in a mean way. They were encouraging me, and that made me feel good. It also made me realize that everyone makes mistakes, no matter how long they've been learning a language. If you can try to speak English with your friends, family, or anyone you meet, they will be understanding, and you'll learn from each conversation. Don't be afraid to ask questions when you don't understand something, and never hesitate to ask for help when you need it. 4. Listen to English every day. I learned that listening to English every day was just as important as speaking it. When I first started learning, I would practice speaking, but didn't pay much attention to listening. However, I quickly realized that to speak fluently, I needed to understand how people speak naturally. I started listening to English songs, watching English cartoons, and listening to English podcasts. Even though I didn't understand everything, I started picking up new words and phrases. I also got used to the rhythm of the language, which made speaking easier. The more I listened, the more I understood how words were connected in sentences. Listening is crucial for learning English. It helps you get used to the pronunciation, the flow of sentences, and how words sound in different contexts. So, make sure to listen to English every day. You can listen to songs, watch movies, or even listen to people speaking in English around you. 5. Keep a journal in English. I started keeping a journal in English to help improve my writing skills. Every day, I wrote about what happened at school, what I did with my friends, or even my thoughts on a book I was reading. It didn't matter if I made mistakes. What mattered was that I practiced every day. At first, my writing was full of errors, and I would sometimes struggle to find the right words. But over time, I began to write more clearly and confidently. Writing every day helped me remember new vocabulary and improve my sentence structure. Keeping a journal is a fun an easy way to practice English. You can write about anything, your day, your favorite activities, or what you want to achieve. Writing helps you think in English and improves your vocabulary and grammar skills. Even if you only write a few sentences each day, it will make a big difference in your learning. 6. Don't compare yourself to others. It's easy to get discouraged when you compare yourself to others. When I was learning English, I would sometimes see other students speaking so fluently, and I would feel upset because I wasn't at their level. I thought they were much better than me, and I felt like I would never reach their level. But one day, I realized that everyone learns at their own pace. Just because someone else is better at speaking English doesn't mean I'm not improving. I focused on my own progress and reminded myself of how far I had come. I remembered that it didn't matter how quickly I learned as long as I kept improving. So, don't compare yourself to others. Everyone learns at a different speed. Celebrate your own progress and be proud of the steps you're taking. Keep working hard, and soon you'll see just how much you've learned. 7. Make English a part of your everyday life. In the beginning, I treated English like something I had to study only at specific times. I would study it for an hour and then forget about it the rest of the day. But I realized that to improve, I needed to make English a part of my everyday life. I started labeling things around the house with their English names, like door, window, book, and chair. I would also practice saying simple sentences in English, like I'm going to the store or it's a sunny day. I began thinking in English instead of my native language. The more I used English in my daily life, the easier it became. I didn't have to study for hours to remember vocabulary. It was just there all around me. To improve, make English a part of your everyday life. Label objects in your house. Think in English, and try to use English whenever you can. 8. Surround yourself with English-speaking people. One of the best things I did to improve my English was surround myself with people who spoke English. I joined a club where everyone spoke English, and it helped me improve quickly. The more I listened to them, the more confident I became. If you don't know many people who speak English, you can find online groups or clubs where people practice together. Talking to people who are fluent in English will help you learn quickly. You'll also learn new slang and informal phrases that native speakers use. So, try to find a group or community where you can practice speaking English regularly. 9. Learn phrasal verbs and idioms. As I improved my English, I started learning phrasal verbs and idioms. These are common phrases that native speakers use in everyday conversations. At first, they were confusing because they don't always make sense if you translate them directly. But once I learned them, my English became much more natural. For example, when someone says, "I'm feeling under the weather," they don't actually mean they're under the weather. It means they're sick. Learning idioms like this helped me understand English in a way that was closer to how people speak in real life. Learning phrasal verbs and idioms is a great way to make your English sound more natural. Don't be afraid to ask someone what a phrase means if you don't understand it. The more you learn, the more you'll sound like a native speaker. 10. Read English books and watch English movies. Another way I improved my English was by reading books in English and watching movies or shows in English. Reading books helped me learn new words, and watching movies helped me understand how people speak in different situations. At first, I found it hard to understand everything in a book, but I didn't give up. I would look up words I didn't know, and slowly I started to understand more. Watching movies in English also helped me improve my listening skills, and I could hear how words were pronounced. Reading books and watching movies is a fun way to learn. You can enjoy the story and still pick up new words and phrases. Try reading a book that interests you or watching a movie with subtitles in English. You'll improve without even realizing it. 11. Stay positive and keep going. There were many times when I felt frustrated and thought I wasn't improving fast enough. But then I reminded myself that learning English takes time and it's okay to go slow. Every small step I took brought me closer to my goal. When you feel frustrated or stuck, take a break and then come back to it. Don't give up just because it feels hard. With every mistake you make, you're getting better, and eventually, you'll look back and see how much progress you've made. Stay positive and keep going. Learning English is a journey, and with patience, you'll get there. 12. Celebrate your progress. Finally, I learned the importance of celebrating my progress. Every time I spoke better or learned a new word, I celebrated. It helped me feel proud of how far I'd come and motivated me to keep learning. Don't wait until you're perfect to celebrate. Celebrate every step you take, whether it's remembering a new word, speaking without hesitation, or understanding a sentence in a movie. These little victories will keep you going and remind you that you're improving every day. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small it may seem. Every step counts. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it inspired you to believe in yourself and take the first step toward learning English. Remember, learning a new language might feel challenging at first, but it's a journey worth taking. Just like I did, you can also start small, practice every day, and speak with people to improve step by step. If my story has encouraged you, then don't keep this message to yourself. You can help others too. Share this video with your friends, family, or anyone you know who might want to learn English. By sharing, you can make someone's life better, just like my life changed when I started learning English. Also, don't forget to like this video to show your support. Every like means the world to me because it helps me understand that my stories are making a difference. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts. Tell me about your own English journey, your challenges, or even your dreams. I would love to hear from you because we are all in this together. And most importantly, subscribe to English Tone. When you subscribe, you become part of our growing family of learners. You will never miss new stories, tips, and fun ways to learn English. Together, we can help each other grow, connect with the world, and become more confident speakers of English. So, what are you waiting for? Click that like button, leave a comment, share this video, and hit the subscribe button now. Let's take this journey together, one step and one word at a time. Your bright future starts here with English Tone. Let's speak, learn, and connect with the world.